There's a moment every man dreads. It happened to Frank Harris on a Tuesday morning in March. He was 72 years old, a retired firefighter who'd spent 30 years running into burning buildings without hesitation. But that morning, lying next to his wife of 48 years, he felt something he'd never experienced in any fire: complete powerlessness. His body simply wouldn't respond. And in that silence, in that failure, Frank felt like he'd lost more than an erection. He felt like he'd lost his right to call himself a man. I'm Dr. Charles Bennett, a retired urologist who specialized in male sexual health for men in their golden years. I spent 4 decades helping men like Frank understand that what's happening below the belt isn't just about sex. It's a warning signal, a biological alarm system trying to tell you something critical about your cardiovascular health, your hormones, and your future. And here's what most men don't realize: that weakness, that inability to achieve firmness, that strange heaviness you feel in your groin during intimate moments, it's not random. It's not just aging. It's your body screaming that something essential is missing. And the solution isn't always found in a prescription bottle. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, in foods you've probably ignored your entire life. What if I told you that 3 specific foods could help restore circulation to your penis, reduce that uncomfortable pressure during arousal, and bring back the kind of morning strength you thought was gone forever? And what if one of them could start working within 72 hours? Before we continue, if you're a man over 60 who wants practical, science-backed solutions to restore your vitality without relying solely on medication, hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on notifications so you never miss information that could change your life. And if this message resonates with you, type "ready" in the comments. If you need something different, type "help" and tell me what you're looking for. I'm here to serve you. Now, let's talk about the first food that could completely transform your vascular health and bring blood flow back to where it matters most: dark chocolate. The circulation awakener. I want to tell you about Henry, a 74-year-old engineer who built bridges for a living. He came into my office defeated, convinced his intimate life was over. He'd tried the pills. They worked sometimes, but left him with headaches so severe he couldn't function the next day. He felt trapped between 2 kinds of misery: physical failure or chemical punishment. I asked Henry one simple question: "Do you eat chocolate?" He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. But here's what Henry didn't know. Dark chocolate, specifically chocolate with at least 70% cocoa content, contains powerful compounds called flavonoids. These natural chemicals do something remarkable. They help your blood vessels relax and expand, improving circulation throughout your entire body, including the delicate network of vessels that supply your penis. After 60, those vessels tend to become rigid, narrow, and inflexible. It's like trying to push water through a garden hose that's been left in the sun too long. Everything becomes restricted, difficult, frustrating. Flavonoids help soften those vessels, making them more elastic and responsive again. They also trigger your endothelium, the inner lining of your blood vessels, to produce more nitric oxide naturally. That's the same molecule prescription medications try to manipulate, except chocolate supports your body's own production rather than forcing a chemical reaction. Henry started eating 2 squares of 85% dark chocolate every evening after dinner. No pills, no side effects, just chocolate. Within 3 weeks, he noticed something had changed. Not dramatically, not overnight, but steadily. His morning arousal returned. The uncomfortable tightness he used to feel during intimacy started fading. And most importantly, he felt hopeful again. The key is consistency and quality. You're not looking for milk chocolate loaded with sugar. You want real, bitter, high cocoa chocolate that actually contains therapeutic levels of flavonoids. It doesn't taste like candy. It tastes like medicine that happens to be delicious once you adjust to it. But chocolate alone isn't enough. There's another food, something most American men grew up eating but abandoned as adults, that contains a nutrient so critical for testosterone production that without it, your entire hormonal system starts to collapse. And when your hormones fail, everything else follows. Let me show you what I mean. Oysters, the testosterone guardian. When I mention oysters, most men think of old stories about aphrodisiacs and fancy restaurants. But oysters aren't folklore. They're one of the most concentrated natural sources of zinc on the planet. And zinc is the single most important mineral for maintaining healthy testosterone levels as you age. Here's what happens after 60. Your body's ability to absorb and utilize zinc decreases significantly. At the same time, your testosterone production naturally declines. This creates a vicious cycle. Low zinc accelerates testosterone loss. Low testosterone makes it harder for your body to use the little zinc you do consume. The result? Weakened erections, reduced libido, fatigue, and that general sense that your vitality is draining away. I remember a patient named Robert, a 70-year-old retired teacher, who described his body as shutting down piece by piece. He wasn't depressed exactly, just resigned. He'd accepted that this was simply what happened to men his age. But when we tested his zinc levels, they were dangerously low. His testosterone wasn't just declining, it was cratering. I suggested he start eating oysters twice a week. Fresh when possible, canned when necessary. Robert was skeptical, but he was also desperate. 6 oysters contain nearly all the zinc you need for an entire day. They're also rich in amino acids that support hormone synthesis and circulation. The change wasn't instant, but it was undeniable. Within a month, Robert reported feeling more energized. His libido, which had been dormant for nearly 2 years, began stirring again. And the persistent heaviness he'd felt in his pelvis during intimate moments, that dull ache that made arousal feel more like work than pleasure, started to dissolve. Oysters won't give you an instant erection. They're not that kind of food. But they rebuild the foundation your body needs to function sexually. They restore the hormonal balance that makes desire, arousal, and performance possible in the first place. Now, you might be thinking, chocolate and oysters sound great, but what about everyday accessibility? What about something simple, affordable, and easy to incorporate without any special preparation? That's where the third food comes in, and this one might surprise you more than the first two combined. Spinach, the nitric oxide powerhouse. If there's one food I wish every man over 60 ate daily, it's spinach. Not because it's trendy or exotic, but because it's one of the most reliable natural sources of dietary nitrates you can find. And nitrates, when processed by your body, convert directly into nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for opening blood vessels and allowing proper circulation to your penis. Think about what happens during an erection. It's not magic, it's hydraulics. Blood flows into the spongy tissue of your penis, filling it until it becomes firm. But that only works if the vessels carrying the blood are open, flexible, and functioning properly. After 60, many men experience what I call vascular insufficiency. The vessels are still there, but they're constricted, hardened, and unable to deliver adequate blood flow. Spinach helps reverse this process. The nitrates in spinach are absorbed through your digestive system, converted by bacteria in your mouth and gut, and transformed into nitric oxide that circulates throughout your bloodstream. This doesn't just help your penis, it helps your heart, your brain, your legs, everything that depends on healthy blood flow. I had a patient, a 76-year-old veteran named Bill, who told me he'd given up on intimacy entirely. He said his body felt disconnected, like the wiring between his brain and his genitals had been cut. When I asked about his diet, he admitted he barely ate vegetables. Everything was processed, convenient, and nutritionally empty. I challenged Bill to eat 1 cup of cooked spinach every single day for 30 days. He could prepare it however he wanted, sautéed with garlic, mixed into eggs, blended into a smoothie. The method didn't matter. The consistency did. Bill agreed, mostly because he had nothing to lose. 3 weeks in, something shifted. Bill called me, almost embarrassed, to report that he'd woken up with a partial erection for the first time in over a year. It wasn't complete, but it was there. Real. Present. And for Bill, that small sign of life meant everything. It meant his body hadn't given up. It was just waiting for the right support. Now that you understand these 3 foods individually, let's talk about why they work exponentially better together. Because nutrition isn't just about eating good things, it's about creating synergies, combinations that amplify each other's effects, and rebuild your body from multiple angles simultaneously. The synergistic effect. Why combination matters. Dark chocolate provides the flavonoids that relax your blood vessels and increase nitric oxide production. Oysters deliver the zinc that maintains testosterone and supports the hormonal signals necessary for sexual desire and function. Spinach floods your system with nitrates that directly convert to nitric oxide, ensuring maximum blood flow to every part of your body, including your penis. When you eat these foods together, consistently, over time, they don't just add up, they multiply. The zinc from oysters makes your body more efficient at using the nitrates from spinach. The flavonoids from chocolate enhance the absorption and effectiveness of both, and all 3 work together to address the 3 root causes of erectile dysfunction: poor circulation, hormonal decline, and vascular rigidity. I've watched men in their late 70s, men who thought they were finished, experience genuine renewal by following this approach. Not overnight transformations, but steady, sustainable improvements that accumulate into real change. Firmer erections, more consistent arousal, less of that uncomfortable pressure and tightness during intimacy, and most importantly, restored confidence in their own bodies. But here's the critical part most men miss. These foods only work if you actually eat them. Regularly. Intentionally. Not once in a while when you remember, but as part of a deliberate daily practice. That's what separates the men who see results from the men who stay stuck. The biggest mistake: ignoring the foundation. After spending decades working with older men, I've identified the single biggest mistake that sabotages their efforts to restore sexual function. It's not lack of desire. It's not even lack of knowledge. It's the refusal to address the foundational issues that prescription medications can never fix. Pills like Viagra force blood into your penis by blocking an enzyme. They override your body's natural regulation system. And yes, they can produce an erection, but they don't fix the underlying vascular damage. They don't restore your testosterone. They don't eliminate the inflammation that's slowly destroying your circulation. They're a temporary bypass around a permanent problem. I've seen men take these medications for years, gradually increasing the dose as their bodies become less responsive, until eventually even the maximum dose stops working. Then they come to me, frustrated and hopeless, asking what went wrong. And I have to tell them the truth. The medication was never meant to heal you. It was meant to manage symptoms while your foundation continued crumbling beneath you. The men who truly regain their function, who experience lasting improvement rather than temporary relief, are the ones who invest in rebuilding their vascular health, their hormonal balance, and their nutritional foundation. They understand that real recovery takes time, patience, and consistency, but the results are worth it because they're sustainable. You're not dependent on a pill. You're dependent on your own healthy body doing what it was designed to do. This isn't about rejecting medical intervention. It's about complementing it with the foundational support your body desperately needs. And for many men, once that foundation is restored, the need for medication diminishes or disappears entirely. Your practical implementation plan. Knowing what to eat is one thing. Actually incorporating these foods into your daily routine is another. That's why I've developed a simple, practical approach that removes all the guesswork and makes consistency effortless. Every morning, start your day with a spinach-based smoothie. Blend fresh spinach with water, a banana for sweetness, and maybe some berries. This gives you your nitrate boost first thing, jump-starting your circulation for the entire day. It's fast, easy, and surprisingly tasty once you adjust. Twice a week, make oysters part of your dinner. If fresh oysters aren't accessible or affordable, canned oysters work just fine. Mix them into a salad, eat them straight, or cook them into a pasta dish. The zinc doesn't care how you consume it, only that you do. Every evening after dinner, have 2 squares of dark chocolate. Make it a ritual, something you look forward to. This provides the flavonoids your blood vessels need while giving you something enjoyable to anticipate each day. That's it. 3 simple habits. No complicated meal plans, no expensive supplements, just real food, consumed consistently, rebuilding your body one day at a time. I've had men tell me this approach changed their lives, not because it was revolutionary, but because it was sustainable. They could actually do it. And when you can actually do something consistently, results become inevitable. The emotional truth, what's really at stake. Let me be direct with you about something most doctors won't say. When your sexual function declines, you're not just losing physical capability. You're losing a part of your identity. For many men, their sexuality is deeply connected to their sense of masculinity, their worth, their place in the world. And when that starts to fade, it feels like you're disappearing. I've sat across from men who've survived wars, built businesses from nothing, raised families through impossible circumstances, men of incredible strength and character, and watched them cry because they couldn't perform sexually anymore. Not because sex was everything to them, but because it represented the last remaining confirmation that they were still vital, still relevant, still alive in the fullest sense. This is grief. Real, legitimate grief. And it deserves to be acknowledged, not dismissed as vanity or misplaced priorities. Your body is changing. That's reality. But change doesn't have to mean surrender. You have more control than you think. Your circulation can improve. Your hormones can stabilize. Your confidence can return. But only if you decide it matters enough to act. The worst thing you can do is accept decline as inevitable and stop fighting for yourself. Because the moment you accept it, it becomes true. Your body follows your beliefs more closely than you realize. When you believe recovery is possible and act accordingly, your physiology responds. When you believe you're finished, your body agrees and shuts down. I'm not selling you false hope. I'm offering you a realistic path forward based on decades of clinical experience and solid nutritional science. Will these foods cure every case of erectile dysfunction? No. Some situations require medical intervention. But for the vast majority of men over 60, poor nutrition and declining vascular health are major, addressable contributors to their sexual struggles. Now let's talk about what happens when you commit to this approach for 30 days. Not what might happen or could happen, but what typically happens based on patterns I've observed across hundreds of patients. The 30-day transformation timeline. Week 1 is mostly about establishing the habit. You probably won't notice dramatic physical changes yet, though some men report feeling slightly more energized. The real work happening here is internal. Your body is beginning to absorb higher levels of zinc, nitrates, and flavonoids than it's seen in years. Your vascular system is starting to respond. Week 2 is when many men notice the first tangible signs. Morning erections might return, even if they're partial or inconsistent. You might feel a difference in your overall energy levels. That persistent heaviness or discomfort in your groin during arousal might start to diminish. These aren't placebo effects. They're your circulation improving, your nitric oxide levels rising, your testosterone stabilizing. By week 3, the changes become more pronounced. Erections tend to be firmer and easier to achieve. Your libido, which may have been dormant for months or years, starts reawakening. You feel more present in your body, more connected to your physical sensations. The emotional shift is often as significant as the physical one. You start believing recovery is actually possible. Week 4 is where everything consolidates. Your body has adapted to the new nutritional input. The improvements you've experienced become more consistent and reliable. You're no longer hoping for results. You're living them. This isn't a guarantee. Every body responds differently based on age, overall health, medication use, and countless other factors. But this is the typical progression I've observed when men commit fully to the process without shortcuts or excuses. Addressing common concerns and obstacles. I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds too simple. If it worked, everyone would be doing it. And you're right. It is simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Most men fail not because the approach doesn't work, but because they don't stick with it long enough to see results. Others worry about cost. Oysters are expensive. Dark chocolate adds up. I can't afford this. Let me put it in perspective. A single prescription for erectile dysfunction medication can cost hundreds of dollars per month. Eating oysters twice a week, buying quality dark chocolate, and incorporating spinach into your diet costs a fraction of that. And unlike medication, these foods provide benefits far beyond sexual function. They support your heart, your brain, your overall longevity. Some men resist because they don't want to change their routine. They've eaten the same way for decades, and the idea of adding new foods feels overwhelming. I understand. But here's the question. How's your current approach working? If you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you've always gotten. At some point, the discomfort of staying the same has to exceed the discomfort of change. The deeper meaning, reclaiming your narrative. Here's what this is really about. Beyond erections and circulation and hormones. It's about refusing to let aging define you. It's about rejecting the cultural narrative that says men over 60 should fade quietly into the background, grateful for whatever scraps of vitality remain. You built a life. You worked, sacrificed, endured, contributed. You earned the right to feel good in your body for as long as you're in it. Sexual function isn't frivolous. It's not vanity. It's a fundamental part of being human, of experiencing pleasure, of connecting intimately with another person. You don't lose that right at 60 or 70 or 80. You only lose it if you choose to surrender it. These foods, this approach, they're tools. But the real power is in your decision to keep fighting for yourself. To believe you're worth the effort. To insist that your story isn't over just because you've accumulated some years. I've seen men in their 80s experience sexual renewal. Not because they turned back time, but because they finally gave their bodies the support they'd been denying for decades. Age is real, but it's not destiny. Decline is optional. Surrender is a choice, and so is resilience. Final thoughts and action steps. If you've stayed with me this entire time, you're already different from most men. Most would have clicked away, uncomfortable with the topic or unwilling to confront their own situation. But you're still here. That tells me something important about your character and your commitment to yourself. Everything I've shared today is based on real clinical experience, legitimate nutritional science, and decades of watching men transform their health through simple, sustainable changes. Dark chocolate for vascular support, oysters for testosterone and zinc, spinach for nitric oxide and circulation. Together, consistently, over time. This isn't complicated. It's just disciplined. And discipline, at your age, is one of your greatest remaining strengths. You've proven you can commit to things that matter. You've built careers, maintained relationships, overcome obstacles younger men can't imagine. This is just another challenge. And unlike most challenges, this one comes with immediate, tangible rewards. Start tomorrow. Not next week, not after you finish some other project. Tomorrow morning, make a spinach smoothie. Tomorrow evening, eat 2 squares of dark chocolate. This week, buy oysters and commit to eating them twice weekly. Don't overthink it. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Just begin. Your body is waiting for you to support it. Your circulation wants to improve. Your hormones want to stabilize. Your confidence wants to return. All of that is possible, but only if you decide it matters enough to act. This video isn't a replacement for medical care. If you have serious health concerns, see a physician. Get your blood work done. Rule out underlying conditions. But while you're doing that, while you're navigating the medical system, feed your body the nutrition it desperately needs. Give it a fighting chance. If this information helped you, if you're planning to implement these changes, do me a favor. Like this video, share it with another man who might need it, and leave a comment telling me what you're committed to trying. Your story could inspire someone else to take action. And if you want to support this channel so I can continue creating content specifically for men over 60, any contribution is genuinely appreciated and helps me serve you better. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about yourself enough to invest this time. You still have strength, power, and vitality waiting to be reclaimed. Go take it back. This isn't the end. This is where your renewal begins.